This is Cole, and this is the second podcast on the masculine principle. Thanks for your messages and questions, and I usually answer below your comment, even sometimes just saying hello. So please be in touch. I've noticed that I have been asked to redirect people to the feminine principle, although YouTube lets me to post the link. It looks like it doesn't reach anyone. So I guess the best thing would be to just type in Barry's website and Cole's Corner or the feminine principle, and I think all 5 podcasts should become visible. There's also a folder that has all of my podcasts from the beginning on Write You So Will, on A Course of Love, and A Course of Miracles, and the feminine principle. And now hopefully I get up to about maybe 5 on masculine principle, and then I'll just move on to other things. So today I decided to talk about presence. What is this masculine presence? For example, in man, when he is fully embodied in his body, when he's not just living in his mind, thinking, but he can feel deeper than past his throat, right? Now, if let's say you're expressing anything that's there to say, and you keep looking up, left and right, but your eyes are kind of looking up above, that means you're in your mental realms. Some people live there, and there's nothing wrong with living there, but it cuts out the heart a little bit. So love becomes more like a concept, and heart becomes a concept. But there are also people who are purely kinesthetic, very feeling. You ask them a question, they will look down, and they take a long time to answer. And when they do, they speak really slowly. You will also find that sometimes I speak very slowly because I'm trying to aim at reaching these lower vibrations in human psyche, both in men and women. Because slower you go, more you have a chance to feel. It's like they often say, it's between the words. It's not really what I'm saying. I also want to say that everything I say is just some kind of flow, like my Moses in me is very loose, and I don't have anything written in stone. Everything is more like a flow. And although I've been living in Australia for 41 years, I could never really get rid of my accent, and my English is second language still, and I do have moments when I still struggle to find the right words. So my expression is the way it is, and so hope you can bear with me. So let me begin to look into this. What is a masculine presence? Yeah. So as we learn how to drop into our deeper visual space, deeper auditory space, when you begin to hear beyond what you're used to hearing, but then also when we drop deep down into those feeling realms, which we often avoid, or they seem like they're non-existent. People talk about feelings and they go like, what are you talking about? Of course I have feelings. Yeah, this is like a reaction. But like I said before, and particularly in the feminine principle, many times what we believe is our feelings are just thoughts in our mind, labels, like this is my anger, this is my sadness, this is my rage. But feelings have a very different avenue of expression. They don't necessarily need to express through words. And particularly if you feel like you have a reaction to what I just said, yeah, but one has to be able to speak it, of course. And yet there is a way of communicating that's divine. Like, God does not necessarily talk. He sends you this, or you tap into this deep memory of divine emergence, which is held in you, or a fragment of God. And I'm obviously using labels that are far from it, but it's the finger pointing to the moon. It's like going past the labels and the experience, like until spirituality is experiential, then it appears like 2,000 years ago, or it appears like someone else has it. But until it's deeply felt within us, in our psyche, and not only felt but sustained as an awareness. This is exactly where this presence comes from. When mind is trained now to not get caught up in the past too much, and he learns how to be here and now. And I'm not necessarily when talking about here and now as like here in space and now in time. I'm actually talking even deeper than that. But if here and now works for you right now, that's fine. But there is also an other form of being where the time and space no longer exist, and the sequential way of being is not necessarily a main focus of a man or a woman. Yeah. So when we begin to be present enough for our feelings and not getting controlled by them or overwhelmed by them, the presence in us knows that it can hold this feeling realm, and that feeling realm actually wants to be held to some extent. So we can create this safe container within ourselves in which all feelings are free to flow. Now, we have feelings that are like, we say feeling and nothing's happening. It's just like, yeah, feeling. But if you actually truly get in touch with a feeling in the loving, allowing presence, feelings will stop being static and they begin to move. When this happens, you are definitely having one of those spiritual experiences where feelings begin to flow and you feel like your body is vibrating. Suddenly your feet begin to reverberate. Very subtle flow of energy becomes evident. And again, there you are, fully present for it. You don't try to analyze it, you're not trying to establish it. You step back and let this flow introduce you to a new way of being. And this new way of being is a constant. So what your state of being was yesterday, that's already ego, that's already labels, that's already remembered. but could be missing the now expression. What is being birthed right now? When I talk about an emergence of a new man, yeah, this is a daily thing. You awaken to a new you. It's like, that's why we can't really define God, because it's constantly creating. If it's creating, it's not making stuff up. There's a big difference between creation, which is, and it happens on its own, and it requires no effort on our part. So that's why we can't define God, because it's constantly in creation. It's like a brand new, but you can't see it with these eyes. And I'm not even saying that God is a feeling, but feeling is an aspect of us that helps us to recognize God. And obviously recognition of God is within. Like there is just this limited sort of label. It's like a fragment of God is powering you. You think you get sustained by food and friends and air, but really what's living us is this fragment or a part, a thought of God that is delightful. Yeah, you're a delightful creation of something that's, because we're in a space and time, we say larger, but again, it's just like a limiting label. So all of these are just words, but when it begins to happen in you, and that's what's important, it begins to ignite within your own self. You actually don't need anyone for this. Like for me, I just close my eyes and go, God, who am I addressing? I'm addressing the highest principle in myself, which is in constant revelation to me. Why? Because I'm present. Because I'm not preoccupied with past thoughts and past awakenings even, and past anything. Just here, now, which is way beyond here and now. Almost like I could say, now is before and after time and space was. It's a crazy sentence, but I love it. Yeah, it's like presence is, it's like being in God's presence, right? Like God smiling at you right now, whatever that is. And again, one of the deepest practices is to release all the ideas and labels we believe God is. So in order to deepen your presence, I would suggest that you could do it with somebody who asks you, what is God? And you just say what it is. And then what else is God? And you say, what comes? So you can empty out and have a look at all those things you believe in you as God, as love. What is love? And again, we'll have thousands of labels, but it's unnameable. If you name it, like the Tao Te Ching says, that the Tao or the God that can be told is not an eternal God. So I am just pointing to something within us, that when we align our mind, our spirit, our thinking aspect of self, we ignite the real feelings, not those feelings that are labeled, just like God, is labeled God, and Jesus is labeled Jesus, and Buddha is an image in the mind that's of an old man or young man or whatever man with big belly or slim. Yeah, thousands of graven images we have, but none of that is it. So we let all this go. Let everything you think you know, everything you think is just the best thing ever, and you let that go. And then boom, something brand new can emerge. That idea of emptying your cup. No nothing. And it just be. And that's presence. What helps for me is always, how am I really feeling? Really feeling. Not the first feeling that pops to my mind. It's usually just mind rushing in, trying to establish its impotence. Yeah? Why is the mind impotent? Because it's often not connected to its own feeling self. And so it lives alone, and it's not living in the oneness or wholeness of the entire being. And so when these two begin to actually find each other, you know how we're looking for maybe the perfect partner? No, this is your perfect partner. Like, you want to find, if you're a man, you want to find this woman in you. She's there. She's a pure feeling. When you get in touch with her, you'll break down, you'll cry your eyes out. You'll sit there and you're not going to believe that this is happening to you. You're completely embraced by this feeling self. Just takes you and goes like, oh, thank you. Thank you for looking for me. Thank you for finding me. Thank you for all the time you spend looking for me. But most of all, thank you for preparing presence in which I can emerge. Because when she emerges, and this is what I mentioned last week about the goddess called Kali, this, when the will comes in, when the feeling self reintroduces itself to us, she will dislodge the old mind, she will cut the old head off, and this new presence will emerge. And that's a real presence. So first we start with this just being focused and being open and receptive to our feelings. Then the feelings will ignite and reflect inside, like my experience was, this was a long time ago, like I kept clearing these feelings and going through all these layers of, hatred and rage and terror and shame and weakness and all these feelings we often trying to not contact. And I went through them, and underneath them is the kingdom of heaven. Because what happened was that imagine it's like a tiny little pond that's very muddy, but if the mud is seen and going like, hey, this is covering up something, you scoop it out slowly and you put it to the side, you have a look at it, what it has to offer you, and just let it be, unless it's got some essence in it, which sometimes we can talk about that later. And then the water get pristine and clean, and you look deep down, suddenly you see like a golden mirror. When you look into that golden mirror, particularly as a man, it will reflect to your masculinity. It will reflect to that part of God mind. You become a God man, a pure masculine presence. This actually has nothing to do with the with the traditions, right? You're sweeping the castle for as long as you can, so you get some kind of blessing from a master. Like the day of intermediaries is coming slowly to an end, where we can directly go to God and go, God, I'm ready. And you'll know you're ready. And you will know that you're going to undergo a purging. You're going to undergo some intensity. Yeah, because that light has been so reduced by density, that now we, instead of flowing and changing forms very fast, we're slow and everything takes a long time, and it seems like things are just getting more and more dense, particularly with the world situation these days. So instead of looking up into the mind, we start looking down. We actually put our head forward a little bit, just a tiny bit. I'm beginning to feel what's below. And what's below the below. At some point, I realized that there is that me that I am goes past my body, and it goes deeper, it goes higher, it goes to the size. We are these huge beings. And that body is just a tiny little aspect of us that can help us to be aware of the density we're creating by seeing how well are we, how sick are we, how fit are we, how erect are we. So to establish this presence, one thing that I found very useful was practicing sitting straight. So if you would, and you're open to some practices, I have hundreds of practices that I've been collecting over the last 20 years of me running men's groups professionally, and at this point I'm running groups just as a weekly delight, just hanging out with a few good men. Not much discussion there, let me tell you. It's more of this profound, deep, golden feelings, sharing the depth of our presence. Just kind of like a speechless, very rich communication that takes place. But at the beginning we went through this finding the balanced posture. You know, with these technologies these days, we collapse a little bit. When we get in trouble, we collapse a little bit physically, and then we never really come back to this open-chested presence that can look straight into the eyes of another person and stay there. Don't budge, don't look away, just be fully present. And what helps a lot is to actually practice for a while. And I'm talking to the men specifically, and I'm not saying this can't be practiced by anyone else, including kids. When I was teaching in a Steiner school, these kids were saying, hey, cool, what's this masculine presence? I'm like, hey, just straighten up your body. And they go like, wow, that makes all the difference. So yeah, it's incredible. So you sit in front of the mirror and just be yourself for a moment. Don't try anything. And notice if one of your shoulders is not locked up and is higher than the other, or that your head is like slightly to the left, that your nose is aiming, 15 degrees from the center, that you're looking more through one eye than the other, that you might have your head being a bit forward. And this is where it's very good to have another body that looks around you from every angle and goes like, hey man, your right hand is much further away from your body than your left hand is. Left arm, I beg your pardon, left arm. Yeah, so it helps you to look at where am I when I'm physically fully aligned. If you look at those pictures of Buddha, or particularly pictures of Shiva, not those statues that are even there, but when you look at those, like particularly drawings, very simple drawings of Shiva, it's just this absolutely balanced. You know, he's not leaning backwards or forward or to the side. He doesn't have his elbow on his knee. Yeah, he's just sitting there in this perfect balance. And putting the body in a perfect balance actually does something. It straightens up your spine, and your energy flow becomes more natural. Sometimes we even used to do these qigong exercises where we would just hold our arms in front of us for 15-20 minutes and then bring them above the head, you know, for 10-15 minutes and experience what it's like to be under that stress of holding until you learn to relax so much that your own energy comfortably holds your arms up without any problem. So your chi, your energy, yeah, your energy becomes to flow equally, and you realize how much of that energy can hold you beautifully. Like when you look at little children, their necks, I just love watching kids and how straight their necks are and how they growing up and out like there's like a tree, you know. So to establish good presence, it is important to also establish a good posture, that your foot, you might notice that if you're standing up, that your right foot might be out a bit more than the left one. That will obviously affect your knees, affect your hips, affect your spine, and next minute you have a pain in the neck and you say, oh, I think I need to get a massage, but it's really affected by your foot. So to retrain again into be able to sit in this very relaxed yet very erect state of or the state of being, or a posture, that will help quiet the mind. Of course, feeling deeper has an incredible grounding effect on the mind. You know, for those guys who like to stop thinking so much, thinking too much comes from not feeling enough. And vice versa, you know, thinking too much is what deprives us of being present for our feelings. And so when the feelings begin to be more open, more flowing within, like I talked before, we have those feelings that move and we have feelings that don't move. So on outside you feel like you're just solid rock, like a mountain. Imagine a golden mountain. See if you can incarnate that quality of absolute solidity that's abundant in its presence. Yeah. If you do that, your mind will slowly begin to join more with the presence of who you are, and it will not be this little separated entity we often call ego. Yeah, ego is like this storage of historical things, and according to Raichi Sobo, which I actually like a lot, ego is an important aspect of us, yeah, because it recognizes you as you. If you didn't have an ego, you wouldn't be able to say, hey, I'm so and so. So to some extent, a healthy ego is a healthy ego, and because it's no longer separate from the feeling self, and when a feeling self returns, there is a birth of the heart. When I'm talking about the birth of the heart, it's not a momentary feeling of love or having like some kind of epiphany for a while, but it's a constant flow of masculine presence, which is more like the masculine heart or a Christ heart, yeah, Christ consciousness or Christ self. Very different to the mind. But those two are not excluding each other. Each has its proper function. So the death of the ego and trying to get rid of ego, I think that's an old school thing for me personally, and I'm not taking this away from anyone. And also Course in Miracles has one very beautiful line. It just really stuck with me ever since I read it 32 years ago, I guess. And it said, you made ego without love, and so ego doesn't love you. And ego can be also this part of us that is so terrified of feelings that it can establish a whole spiritual movement around avoidance of feelings and convincing itself that it's unnecessary and there is only oneness and there is only one. For me, oneness comes when my mind awakens to the fact that there is this part of me that feels, and those two are equal in its, if we could say, in proportion. They if we had a circle and another circle, they're the same size. One of them is thinking aspect, the other one is feeling aspect. Yeah? The masculine, feminine, thought, feeling. So when a feeling returns, it then, instead of those two, they're like two magnets, because masculine is labeled as plus and feminine is labeled as minus. Why is it minus? Because feeling is more magnetic and thought is more electric. Yeah. So if you have two magnets and they click together, they create oneness. And they create this exquisite solid magnetism that clicks together and becomes one. Yet, if you pull it apart, there is two, and there is this magnetic field that's around it. So, for me, that's oneness. When I don't have to deny something in order to be in oneness, where everything is included, everything is embraced, and because of this alignment, or what I call integrity, like an inner integrity, being true to myself, increases this inner magnetism. It ignites the heart, and the body becomes more elevated. It's no longer as dense and solid. That to me is oneness. So then when I'm in this place as a man, inside of this ignited self, then if I meet with a woman and she is capable of tuning into this presence, she begins to respond to it. And now we're creating this magnetism between two beings. This is what I call the communion or divine union, where man is fully incarnated into himself or who he is, but so is she. But when it comes to these two, it becomes again like he's a man and she is a woman, right? And yes, she's capable of all these different things, and yes, he's capable of all these feelings. However, in this kind of scenario, we're talking about the electromagnetic field again. So we either repulse each other or we magnetize each other to each other and create oneness, create that divine union between us. Because the feminine is more reflective, again, very loose label, because it's reflective, yeah? It's really up to man to really first find the presence. However, when woman is very deeply feminine, and that means, to me, that means very feeling, yeah? She's no longer have this incredible need to say a lot. She just doesn't. It comes this exquisite radiance. The radiance doesn't need to talk about itself and introduce itself as like, I am this and this and that. It's like, well, I can see it already. There's no need to tell me something, who you are, yeah? I feel your essence, because I feel my own essence. So if I know who I am, I know who you are. So now we're sitting in this. And it's not really eye-gazing, because the eyes are no longer so important. We see each other with vision. Yeah, you can even have your eyes closed eventually. At the beginning we practiced a lot with the eyes open. But eventually, when the connection happens, you can close your eyes and you see the being. You see her heart, you see her deep yearning for union, for that profound connection that's beyond daily chores. It's a divine union. In this place, honesty is the key. It's a beautiful line in A Course in Miracles. When you're willing to hide nothing, you will not only be willing to enter into communion, but you will also understand peace and joy. Because it gets really funny. My close companions, when we sit together, we drop into this exquisite union together, and it's not serious. It's not like, now we're meditating. It's joyous, and it's funny, and it's playful, and it's like that thing that Jesus said. It's like, lest you become like a little children, you will not recognize the kingdom. So this kingdom is within us. Everyone has it, and the only reason you might not be fully aware of it, because of this separation within the self with the true feelings. Yeah, so I'm not talking about these karmic feelings that we think we have, or we recognize, like, oh yeah, now I'm sad, oh now I'm frustrated, oh now I'm this. Not those. Those are the upper layer of feelings. When you get through those by intelligent approach, clearing and loving presence and acceptance, particularly acceptance of feelings we usually try to avoid, especially in men. We're trying to avoid feelings of weakness, inadequacy, shame. Yeah. So you're sitting with somebody and suddenly you have this outpour of like, oh my God, I feel so inadequate. Because in a way, when the mother of the feeling, the the pure feeling shows up. The way we were living up until now, there will be a sense of inadequacy. If that's denied and not shown, the feeling self will not trust you fully. And so if you're sitting with a woman, she won't trust you either. Somewhere in there she would feel that you're hating a feeling. And when you're hating a feeling for a woman, somewhere deep down, that's like, oh, that which I am in essence, he rejects. So I recommend, particularly to men, to just allow yourself to feel those feelings you would normally try to not show you have. You feel inadequate, just feel it. Be erect, be strong, don't collapse. So like, I'm this and that. No, you're sitting in there going like, whoa, I feel so inadequate. And you just feel it, and you feel it, and you feel it, and you ooze it out. You make it visible. Yeah. In that case, you don't have to split yourself in two. The part of your like presentation phase and part of you that's in denial. Yeah. You open with all there is in you. Yeah, you feel yourself all the way down to the bottom of your feet. You feel absolutely everything. You're aware of what's arising and you don't put a filter on it. So just sit there. Guys, I tell you what, this is so attractive. It will make the reflection that's in front of you, even another man, will make him very vulnerable and open and extremely magnetic. So you suddenly fall in union with another person. It could be two men. I have male friends. We sit together in this exquisite presence, which as a man, I don't really experience it as a love. I experience it as a union of it goes beyond physicality and way beyond sexuality. So it's like a very, very safe place of feeling complete oneness with another man. But when it is with a woman, there is a different texture to it. And even if you are with another man, one of you will be a little bit more masculine and one will be reflecting moment to moment, a bit more feminine aspect, yeah. So for me, being blessed by this series of books called Right Use of Will, that taught me how to establish connection with my deepest feeling self in a permanent way, not just momentarily. Yeah. Sometimes if I'm like, let's say I'm on a mission and I'm in town and I have to do chores and I have to do organized things and I have to make calls and things, yeah. But then I come home, I go, okay, I'll let myself go. I become completely human in that sense. When I come home, it's like, let me return to who I am, because the world does not necessarily reflect a perfect space for sharing this way. However, if I go out in the world, I feel like God goes with me wherever I go, and this presence kind of penetrates the moment into a delightful union with people wherever I go. It happens by default. If I am complete and whole and Christ-like in every cell of my body, wherever I go, then it gets reflected. If I'm grumpy, caught in my head and pushing some feelings away, I will get similar reflections. Someone will come and spear me down or go like, there could be a slight conflict. And again, those things happen, and it's beautiful to be able to share them. And even so, all this perfect alignment is happening. It's still a process going deeper, and it still happens that there can be a situation where something feels off, and I need to allow myself to feel those, like, wow, I'm feeling so off right now. And I'm with it. I'm not trying to change it. I'm not trying to transform it. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just like, aha, that's the feeling. And I give that feeling space to move the way that feeling needs to move. Yeah? Yet, I'm also creating a container or a holding for that feeling, so I can safely do that. I mentioned in the previous podcast that my mission in life, what I love doing, what I love sharing, is introducing humanity to this new way of being with their feelings, be it men or women. And so that's all I do. I am not saying this is for everyone, and if it's for you, that's great. It also might not be your cup of tea, and or might not be the right time, or might not be ever a time where you go like, well, there are schools, or there are teachers who basically have zero interest in anything to do with feeling, and that's fine with me. And if it triggers me, then it's my gratitude right there. It's like, wow, I got triggered by this. Let me take this home and nurture it to health, nurture it to life, where everyone has absolute freedom and right to do and be who they need to be. And if I have a problem with it, I have to release that within myself. And I have a few nice modalities that help me to clear this up. So any upset, it doesn't take very long, if it at all happens. If you look into some of my old podcasts where I talk about like true forgiveness and how to truly forgive, because forgiveness is always of the self. So if I hold something within myself, I'll magnetize myself somebody who is going to trigger that part of me, right? The minute someone triggers me, that's the end of them. I don't need them anymore, except maybe next time, just to see if it triggers me again. But if you truly release it within yourself, there is nothing magnetic pulling these people to you anymore. So being grateful for those who trigger us, yeah, it's like Jesus says, love your enemy. Why? Well, because they trigger the hell out of you. And that hell needs transformation, yeah? So it turns into heaven. And it does, yeah? Because it only looked dark from the above perspective. But when you keep looking in, you will see that many of those grievances are actually not there. They were just like imagination of this separated part of ourselves that we call ego or the mind. So bringing this forgiveness aspect to it is very important, because the world is only reflecting that. It's reflecting what's being held within. That's why I don't really search out the internet or or watch television or watch news, because I want to be triggered by what's in my immediate vicinity. Yeah, unless I have a really strong pull to watch something, and then that was something I needed to experience within myself, some form of injustice or something always comes back to me, like then I have an injustice wound, yeah, and I got to begin in myself. So if I say something and it triggers you, it's like, thanks, Cole. And you begin to go, what was the feeling that brought up in me? Yeah. And then you will look deeper and you have a look at that particular feeling you despise in yourself, and you attack it and you make it look dark. So instead of doing that, you're waking up to a new level of presence, where you become present with your triggers, with a loving acceptance. It's like, I'm with my feelings unconditionally now. That does not mean that I have acceptance for all of my feelings, but I have acceptance that I don't have acceptance for some of them. And that happens, like, wow, this is so hard to accept, particularly for me, because sometimes the feelings, they come like an avalanche. They're big, and I go like, whoa, I feel so small when this level of feeling begins to express. It's so huge that one has to surrender, fully surrender. It's like, wow, there's nothing I can do here except let go, let this avalanche pass through. But if I see it coming, my feeling self, my intuition say, hey, you know what? An avalanche is coming. Make sure you stay slightly to the side so you can watch it pass, but it doesn't tumble you. That's the deep level of forgiveness. Will train your will, your feeling self, your intuition to feel into what is coming. And that's beautiful, because you will just know. And there will be also times when the feelings say, hey, get out of here, this is not your right place right now. And if you listen to it, she'll love you for it. I guess there would be plenty on this idea of presence. If you have any comments around this, and help me to see some maybe other aspects of it. And I'm not putting myself into a shoes of someone who knows and the others don't. We all have gifts, My gift is this feeling thing, because that's what I'm so passionate about. That's what I love, running men's groups. So I share myself. I'm also a guitar teacher and a guitarist, and I love every day I play guitar and learn new songs, and that's also a gift that I love giving in some form. Make recordings and things like that. But everybody has a gift, and like I said last time, it's like the mission in life, or the purpose in life, is to find this deep gifts that are particularly, like, no one plays guitar like I do. There's millions of guitarists and they play the guitar the way they do, but no one plays like I do, right? No one teaches this stuff like I do, because I have a particular mixture of Course of Miracles, Course of Love, Righteous Over Urantia, Get Byron Katie. Those are my, that particular, and David Data, which is like his beautiful work of, particularly for men. Yeah, like the Way of a Superior Man book. It's like a must of any man who wants to deepen his masculine presence. So I have this particular mix of things, and then through music I'm also extremely feeling already. So that is my way, that is my passion, that is my gift. But everyone has something to offer, and that's the beauty of it all, that we're like these exquisite beings. When we return to the truth of who we are, that we begin to enrich the kingdom by sharing our inner kingdom and giving it away in the most, like I said before, the purpose is to find what is this gift now, and then mission, it's like, how do I give it in the most artful and most powerful way that I know at this point. Sometimes I listen to my podcast, I'm going like, did I say that? And sometimes I say it like, oh gosh. And sometimes I say like, wow, I can't believe I said that. It's really good. Like, it's almost like I'm telling that for myself to remember certain things, because it is a constant creation and constant evolution in some way. It's not static, it's all moving, particularly when we get to that point where we are so loving with our feelings that they begin to move in us and introduce us to this new life, which will then help us to emerge for us men as the new man, but also for women to show her what her potential and her capacity is, particularly if the women return more into the feeling self and a man returns deeper into his presence, and instead of thinking, it becomes the thought of God himself. Alright guys, thanks for listening. Catch you next week.